just waiting for my presentation to show up. Oh, good, there it is. All right, that's so, good afternoon. Good afternoon. Oh, see, this is good. With my students, I did that 2 or 3 times. Everyone's awake. There's caffeine right there. I wasn't awake. I came in about midnight last night on a flight from Los Angeles, so just now adjusting to East Coast time. But it's a pleasure to be here, and I want to thank all the people who made this visit possible. I find that it's much more valuable to be able to share the work that you do in person. The books, I think, are important, but being able to show you the work and the lives of my students and the projects, I think, in person is much more powerful. And the title of the talk is about literacy, academic achievement, but what I really want to talk about is 15 years of work we've been doing around youth voice and youth empowerment, because I think that the key to this work is not the outcomes but the input. Right? You'll have the critical literacy, you'll have the academic achievement if we figure out ways to motivate and engage young people and have them acting in powerful ways inside and outside the classrooms. And I'll be sharing work that we've been doing in Northern and Southern California since the mid-90s and work that we have now going on in projects all over the country. So I'll start by talking about this idea of literacy, but mostly the learning theory and the theories about motivation that inform the work, and thinking about what my model of powerful teaching is and has been and is constantly emerging to become. And then I'll share some of the work that we've been doing with young kids around popular culture, some of the work that we've been doing having young people working as researchers and scholars in their own communities, and then end with some concluding ideas. So my biggest challenge when I first started teaching, this was something I heard my mother and father say, because both of them were teachers, was that I knew that I had students who were very talented, students who had a lot of skills and abilities, but the students were largely failing in my classes, and they lacked motivation and engagement. They were not motivated at all. And I knew how to work with pre-service teachers and teacher education. One of the things I say that I wish that I had known more when I first started teaching was how much of a motivator I needed to be. Right? The curriculum does not teach itself. You have to be a motivator. And this was something that was really troubling to me early on as a teacher in Oakland. And I found myself drawn back to graduate school. I was taking courses at night as a graduate student while I was teaching during the day. And I became fascinated with educational psychology because it was not a field that I had as an English major and even in my credential program. One of the theories that I came across in educational psychology that radically transformed my teaching and my life since is this expectancy value theory of motivation. And basically it says that motivation is a function of 2 characteristics. And the degree that these characteristics are met, people are likely to be motivated. And to the degree they're not met, they aren't. The first one is confidence. If people feel confident in their ability to perform a task, they're likely to be motivated to do it. You can think about that in your own lives. If there's something that you know you're really good at, you have a high degree of confidence in, you've got to be more motivated to do it. The second characteristic is relevance. To the degree that an activity is relevant, you're going to be motivated to do it. You think about young kids, right? Which student do you know that hasn't figured out how to program their iPhone? Right? Hasn't figured out how to Facebook from their phone with their hand under the desk while they're listening to you, pretending to listen to you, right? Or drive a car. Even if it's a stick shift, an 8-gear stick shift, right? They're going to figure out how to drive that thing even if it's at the bottom of a steep hill. Because it's relevant to them, right? So all the bells went off in my head when I thought, the reason my students are unmotivated is because 1, they don't have confidence in what I'm asking them to do, and 2, I'm not asking them to do anything that I've made explicitly relevant to them. And so from that moment forward, I really transformed my curriculum and all my work with students to 1, what is it that they already do that they have a high degree of confidence or competence in that I can draw on? And 2, how can I situate the pedagogical act or the act of teaching in something that is relevant to them in the present and the future? And so that's where these projects stem from. A lot of ethnographic work that I did looking at the way young people were participating in popular culture. They were participating in very sophisticated ways cognitively that had a lot of connection to what I wanted them to do in the classroom. And the second part of this is, a lot of our work positions young people as intellectuals and researchers talking about issues that they care about in their community. And drawing on their passion and their compassion has been an extremely motivating force for them to become intellectuals and to do intellectual work. But it really started for me with this expectancy value theory. Do the things or draw upon their confidence, but make sure that the work is relevant to them now. Not necessarily relevant to them in 20 years from now, you're going to get a good job. But can it be relevant right now? Can we have math curriculum and science, English, language arts, social studies curriculum, where the students are contributing right now to real world and community problems as they're also learning an academic content area? I didn't even see that camera. I'm just bouncing all over the place. I'm a bouncer, so that's it. All right. So the other part of this, the learning is the literacy. And I normally use the term literacies because literacies are multiple. And there are multiple kinds of literacy. There's multiple purposes for education in school. So the first one there is academic literacy. Right? Helping kids to learn to read and write and speak in ways that help them to navigate educational institutions that they have to if they're going to be powerful members of society. That's a key part of what we do. Right? No matter what else you do, we have to help them to be able to do school better. Academic literacy is a moving target, but we have to figure out where it's moving and aim so that we hit it, or else we're not doing kids a service. Right? Academic literacy is a matter of life and death for the kids I work with. If you in those groups. Consequently, you look at students who graduate high school, who engage in some kind of post-secondary education, and it's like a different life track. I work with students in the high school, and when they get to 11th grade, I say, welcome to the extra 10 years of your life. Because it's literally a matter of life and death. For students who are dropping out of school before the 10th grade, those who show up for 11th grade, graduate high school, move on. But those aren't the only kinds of literacies that matter to being powerful in the world. So critical literacies are important. By critical, we mean how do you not only learn to read and write, but understand the relationship between language and power? How do you deconstruct messages that are sent to you? How do you reconstruct in your own voice and articulate things that you have a passion about? So we don't just want them to read. Sometimes we want them to take things apart, or understand bias, understand sexism, understand racism, understand intolerance, understand propaganda. Right? And those aren't just academic skills, those are critical skills. We also want them to have a civic literacy. Are these ways of reading and writing and speaking helping you to participate better in the local and global communities that matter to you? Because if we're not doing that, we're also not doing them a service, right? Because they have to live in the world outside of the classroom and outside of school and have to figure out how to participate powerfully in that environment. And related to that are community literacies.